The anti-Bud list, things you don't believe in?
Yeah, storylines, things that I just don't believe in.
Got you. Was it top 5 least interesting?
No, it was never going to be least interesting. We did best rosters yesterday. Today we were going to do worst rosters. It could be good for a lot of reasons, but you guys didn't want to do it. That way nobody could be like, hey, why don't you ever talk about the Raiders on the show? Be like, hey, did you watch our worst roster segment? But now we don't have an opportunity. And then also I knew we were about to do a Patriots segment in about 15 minutes. It would have been a little redundant. Okay, so the Bud list is all about inspiration.
Yeah.
And Brew ends all of them with I believe in you. Also, the Bud list used to be 5 items long before Wilds chopped it to 3. This is the top 5 things I simply don't believe in.
Love it.
Number 5, the Browns' belief in Deshaun Watson. I don't think it's there. So they had DTR already, their 5th-round pick from a year ago. They had Tyler Huntley, who was a Mac Jones honorary Pro Bowler once, where if you go to his Wikipedia page, it said he made the Pro Bowl. Despite that, no, I'm just telling you what it was. Despite that, they signed Jameis Winston, who is known to be popular in the locker room, has succeeded intermittently throughout his career, but I think all of us agree could certainly step in and do something similar to what Joe Flacco did last year. So why did they do it? And I think they did it because they have no idea if Deshaun Watson, A, can stay healthy, and B, if healthy, is better than Jameis Winston. Now, obviously, the contract is the contract, but after this season, there are only 2 years remaining on it. And I don't know that Kevin Stefanski, the 2-time Coach of the Year, wants to tie the rest of whatever his tenure is there to Deshaun Watson. So the fact that Jameis is there and the fact that Deshaun is still not 100% makes me think any sales the Browns are trying to tell us that they're all in on Deshaun Watson, I simply don't believe you. The number 4 storyline that I don't believe you, everything's copacetic in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, they rode on a golf cart together with Big Dom, and it's all good. The article describing the dysfunction ended with this kicker that I think was maybe the biggest red flag in a story that I've seen all year. If we can show you how that article finished, it was from a forgiving source. Do I think they'll go to dinner together? Hell no. But can it be good working professional relationship? But it can be a good working professional relationship. And I don't think it's hatred. All right. That ain't great.
No.
And we know what we know about these two guys' personalities. They don't seem to jive exactly. And I understand the quarterback and the head coach personalities don't always have to jive. However, when he's an offensive-minded head coach who historically had also been a play caller and the guy who last year evidently was overruling the play caller at times, and the fact that the coach seems to be the more boisterous, with more bravado, I just don't think what Brew called the supernatural funk is over, and I don't believe that all is good in Philadelphia. Number 3, I don't believe that the Ravens are positioned nearly as well as they were last season. They lost 3 offensive linemen in Simpson, Zeitler, and Morgan Moses. On defense, they lost Clowney, Geno Stone, Patrick Queen, 2 defensive backs who were at least in the rotation, Rock Ya-Sin and Ronald Darby. And oh yeah, by the way, they lost defensive mastermind Mike McDonald to go be the head coach in Seattle. They have a first-place schedule unlike last year. They start the season with 3 of 4 games against playoff opponents. They end the season with 4 of 5 games against playoff opponents. And in the middle, they play 3 of 8 against playoff opponents from last year and 2 games against the Bengals. So for all those reasons, anyone believing that they are going to be able to repeat last year's success where they had a top 3 offense, a top 3 defense, where they looked from up until the kickoff of the AFC title game to be the best team in football, I just don't believe you. The number 2 thing that I do not believe is that Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers are on the same page. I understand that when asked about it, they both tell you it's all good, and I understand people's gut reaction of Saleh only is there because Rodgers wanted him there. Why would Rodgers want him there if they're on the same page? I think Aaron Rodgers likes the fact that Robert Saleh knows I had a lot to do with you still being here, and therefore we're going to kind of run things the way I would like to run. And I think there was the first crack in that armor was shown in that post-mini camp absence press conference. We then saw more times when Aaron, as coaches pointed out, would publicly not go after Robert at all, but just be like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I'm not playing in the preseason. We hadn't talked about that. That's news to me. Just further signs that these two guys are not exactly on the same page. And that, if I'm being honest, is my biggest concern. One of my biggest concerns about the Jets is the stability of the coaching staff as a whole and the Rodgers-Saleh relationship. And the last thing that I simply do not believe is that the Dallas Cowboys actually want to re-sign Dak Prescott. If they wanted to, they would have. And I understand there are reports, oh, they've made him this offer, they've made him that offer. I think they know the type of offer it would take to actually get Dak to sign. And I think they smartly, by the way, don't want to commit to him right now. If he can have an MVP caliber season, a third straight 12-win season, have a career year across the board, and still that quickly in a home playoff game against the youngest team in the league, look that out of sorts, look that deer in the headlights, I don't know that they want to commit to the next 4 years of him being their signal caller. So I think they are trying to play the PR game of course we'd like Dak back, while never presenting Dak with an offer they expect him to take. Those are the 5 storylines from this season that I simply do not believe in.
Pretty good.
Greg Jennings.
Look, I like those storylines. There's a few that I don't believe in as well, and the one that I want to highlight is number 4, Sirianni and Hurts, because I believe it would be better served for this entire team and organization if they would just say, there was friction there. There was definitely an issue, and we're working through it, and be honest, and get that out in the air so that it's not a cover-up. Because what's happening right now, and I was reading the article, and forgive me, I can't remember who it was, but it was Darius Slay was making a statement about Kellen Moore, who's their new offensive coordinator, and it said something to the point of, Kellen Moore is finally giving Jalen Hurts the freedom to be elite. Kellen Moore, the coordinator. Well, you mentioned it in your great rundown of Nick Sirianni being an offensive-minded guy. He was a play caller. He was questioned, are you calling plays? Did you call plays? Were you in charge of plays? Yeah. But if Kellen Moore is allowing this to happen with Jalen Hurts, and there is one thing that Nick Sirianni disagrees with, and he sits in that meeting room, and he's like, I don't know. This pops up. It will be an issue because if you bring somebody in that you didn't get to select. By the way, Nick Sirianni, head coach, he didn't get to select Kellen Moore and say, hey, I want that guy. That wasn't this deal. When your quarterback has an issue and we know that it's out there and you're riding on a golf cart, and Last Dance reference, when Doug Collins and Michael Jordan had an issue, we saw Doug Collins say, Mike, are we good? He comes on and kisses him. We're not going to see that. In what you just displayed, talking about it's not hatred. Yeah, because there's an issue, and as long as they're winning, everything will be fine. Coach, you can speak to this more than anyone. As long as we're winning, it covers up a lot. The moment there's adversity and they start to lose games, this will come out, and it would unravel.
And I would just add, last year, it's kind of got lost in the shuffle. Everything wasn't all good, even when they were winning.
Yeah.
Even when they were winning, there would be weird post-game press conferences. Folks talk about, you don't know all the stuff that's going on, but Jalen said, you don't know what you don't know. A.J. Brown was alluding to it. So even when they were en route to 10-1, there was real strife, and then obviously it fell apart at the end.
Yeah, I think I'm too harsh on Nick's list because when I looked at this the first time, I'm like, these are just so obvious. Like, I live in Cleveland. I don't think there's anybody in the city that believes Deshaun Watson is the answer. So I was like, oh, that's an easy one that Nick just laid up. And then the Sirianni Hurts one, that article was too well sourced. There's been too many people that have talked about the issues that they have, but they're married and they've got a mandate and it's got to work together. So the relationship isn't good. It just has to be working good. But I thought you kind of mailed that one in too.
You agree, but you're insulting him at the same time.
He's saying I took the easy option. He's calling the low-hanging.
Well, now we get to the Ravens.
I was waiting for him to be like, oh, the earth is flat. I don't believe that either. And then the Ravens, That one I was actually surprised by, and I thought that was a much hotter take.
Thank you.
The Rodgers Salah, well, we're all in New York. We hear them talk all the time, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm saying it was why I don't believe it.
Yeah, nobody believes. I can't imagine anybody believes it.
Okay.
But all right, and the Dak one I thought was could go either way. So I'm going to add my low-hanging fruit to it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Jerry Jones. Nobody's a bigger fan of Mike McCarthy than Jerry Jones.
Oh.
So I'm going to throw on Nick's list, in the spirit of his list. That's the one I'm going to add to your.
Maybe we should have done least interesting takes.
I mean, well, I would have gotten. It wasn't ever going to be least interesting takes. It was going to be the 5 worst rosters in the NFL.
I had to reread the list.
Is what it was going to be. And by the way, the Giants are the 5th. I've now named all 5. The Panthers, the Titans, the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Giants. I just letting you know, those would have been the 5. That's what it would have been.
Too hard on your list. I'm sorry.
All right. Hit the music. I'm starting, believe it or not, I don't believe we're going to see a bounce back year from Trevor Lawrence, but part of me is rooting for it. For selfish reasons. I like the music. I like the fanfare. I like the trumpeters. And I learned something. I'm giving you an opening here, so it's a negative take, but I read Matthew Berry's column, which I liked and retweeted actually. Did you read that? It's a fantasy article.
I'm not a fantasy guy, but
it's,
yeah.
Yes, but
I
there's a
like
lot
an
of
adult.
applicable. How dare you? You're not invited to my kids' league. There is a lot of applicable real-world stats. So here are the real-world stats that I like that are not just fantasy. 1, 6 most deep pass attempts of all last year. I didn't realize that. Then they get Gabe Davis, who, and I'm going to quote Barry verbatim. Since he entered the league, Gabe Davis leads all players in average depth of target.
Yeah, that's because he's just running 9 routes. That's one of the reasons I didn't love Gabe Davis. That's kind of the only thing he does.
But that's good for Trevor Lawrence of the Prince. He gets to air it out. And then draft pick Brian Thomas Jr. had 9 touchdowns of over 30 yards. So he's going to have a chance to have some wow plays. Yeah. Now, do I think they're going to go well? Or is he going to pass the ball to the wrong team? Is it going to get a little bit wet and he's going to cough it up? Probably. But I'm not buying the Prince keeps. See, I don't even want to say that.
But that's what you. Hold on. What was
I didn't
this?
make that one up.
Can I say something?
This is half-hearted.
I'm about to sell you out and then apologize to the audience. Wilds mandated I do something Bud List related. I don't know where he gets off giving me mandates to begin with, but he does it all the time.
Leader of the show, that's why.
Second,
Leader of the show.
wipe that grin off your face, Greg. Second of all, I had an anti-Bud list, which was the teams I don't believe in, the 5 worst rosters in football, which we should have done. You were like, no, that's boring. No one wants to hear you talk about those teams.
So instead you talk about Dak, Rodgers, Lamar, the Eagles.
Exactly.
And through Cleveland.
Right. Exactly right. Cleveland for coach, and then I was sticking it to you by doing the 4 teams we talk about the most. And then, as I am getting ready to get dressed, I hear Wilds bellow from one of his offices. Josh, what team do I not believe in?
Yeah.
Because the segment he made me do, he had not given 1 second of thought to, as evidenced by when he was like, hey, I don't believe in the Jags. Here are these great Jags stats I read from my buddy Matt Barry.
I'm trying to root for you.
That was embarrassing.
You know what?
That was worse than me showing the wrong Brock Purdy
Dusty,
highlighter.
what did the list do? When did we get this list?
What?
2:15. No, I'm in makeup. Oh, by the way, I finished my list. Thanks. We have 45 minutes till the show starts. Good news, all the graphics are done. The list needs to be done at 10. That's what the meeting is.
The list was done at 10.
It's not the most boring storylines. Top 5 most boring storylines. Let's head to Tennessee, where Will Levis, who no one cares about, tries a bounce back year. No one cares.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.